Marketer of the Day, number 456. How to become a TEDx stage speaker and get over 1 million views with Elena Herdieckerhoff. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We have a special guest today, and she's going to talk to us about how she put on this thing called the TEDx Talk. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, hey Elena, how are things?
Hey, so glad to be with you and everyone. So my name is Elena Herdieckerhoff, to just add on the last piece of my horrendously long German name.
Perfect.
And I'm thrilled to be here and talk all things TEDx with you.
Awesome, and I'm excited to know about what people need to know about TEDx Talks and like who should do it and what we need to do. And before we jump in here, what's your website, just to make sure people can kind of follow along with what you're doing?
Sure. So my main website is entreprincess.com, which is tongue-in-cheek for entrepreneur and princess on the P, because I work with a lot of highly sensitive people. So that's my main business website, and specifically for those interested in TEDx and the kind of speaker coaching I provide for other future TEDx speakers, you can find that on sensitivesuccess.com/speaker. So that's for everybody interested in doing their own TEDx talk.
Super great. And so, so now that you mentioned that sort of stuff, can you tell us what a TEDx talk is? Because I remember seeing like TED Talks and all these super famous people talking about things like, you know, Al Gore would do a TED Talk or Tony Robbins would do a TED Talk. And then it seemed like a couple years later, this thing came out, which was a TEDx Talk, which seemed like, I don't know if it was like the next tier down or something like that. So can you explain to us like what a TED Talk is and what a TEDx Talk is and what's the difference and what these things are all about?
Sure. So basically, the core concept of TED is ideas worth spreading. So the idea is that a great expert or speaker of some kind gets on stage. They have 18 minutes to condense all of their vast knowledge into those short minutes to convey a really worthwhile idea that can somehow change or improve the world. So every speaker has only this 18-minute format. And it's about educating, inspiring, motivating people to change their mind about any given subject. And initially, this all started as a TED conference. And as you quite rightly said, mainly you have very famous people speaking at TED. But the TED organization has come up with something called TEDx since many years already. And the TEDx is basically an independently organized speaker event. So it's usually a one-day event that people put on, for example, in different cities. So you would have maybe a TEDx New York, a TEDx Paris, a TEDx London. So cities, also universities, can put on their own TEDx days, and they recruit lesser known experts or lesser known speakers, but that have a great and important message to share. And they run the same format as TED, so the same style, the same energy, the same kind of way of portraying their message. And these TEDx talks, just like the TED Talks, then land on YouTube, which is where a TEDx talk, for example, can really go viral. So that's kind of the sequencing of events, is that the real life of a TEDx talk is on YouTube and not so much on the actual day of the event.
Interesting. Yeah, and I agree with that. And because I've just noticed that when I see someone's TEDx presentation, I had no idea that it was part of an all-day thing. I usually see like, you know, such and such marketer did a TEDx in Atlanta or, you know, or Berlin or something like that. And I didn't know that it was a whole day with multiple speakers. I just thought, oh, well, this one person gave this one talk. So that's great if I'm understanding you correctly, that
Absolutely.
It's a one-day multi-speaker thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Multi-speaker and one-day event typically.
So as far as so you mentioned that this TEDx talk is all about people looking to, you know, they have these new ideas we're spreading. They're looking to educate, inspire, and motivate. And so how do we know if, like, who's good for a TEDx talk and who's not?
Okay, so basically, anyone is good for a TEDx talk that has a burning mission in their heart to share something that they think will change minds or hearts or both. And somebody also who can combine that with a certain level of expertise in their chosen subject. So it needs to be something that you really have a very confirmed knowledge about, and you can prove that you know what you're talking about. And because TEDx really makes sure that it only has really qualified speakers on their chosen subject. But really the great thing is, I think everybody is an expert on something. So there is no such thing as a TEDx talk being reserved to a select few, I don't know, superstar entrepreneurs or superstar academics. Anyone can really do a TEDx talk with a topic that they're super passionate about and know a lot about. And I think every single person has at least one topic that they know a lot about and really care about.
Great. So both of those things. So that burning mission plus the expertise. And you mentioned in there that it's sort of somewhat of a tough process to get in. TEDx wants to have really good speakers. So how, if someone says, all right, I've got this mission, I've got the expertise, I want to pursue this TEDx thing, how do people go about doing that? What's the starting point?
So the starting point is to actually select already a few venues where you think that you would like to speak, and that is, if that's a factor, that's easy for you to get to as well. So you can look on the TED website for upcoming TEDx events at all points. And what's interesting to note is every TEDx event has a specific theme. So maybe one theme could be innovation, one theme could be love, or whatever it is. So they will have themes, and you need to kind of check out if your talk would fit that theme, or if you could kind of link it. It doesn't have to be a perfect match, but if it would kind of fit in with the general theme or energy of that day and of that TEDx event. So that's when you first decipher, okay, this is the event I'd be interested in. And what most people are not aware of is you can actually apply to speak. So many people have the preconception that to do a TEDx talk, you necessarily need to be chosen. But that is sometimes true, that TEDx does approach, different TEDx curators may approach certain individuals that they think would be a great match for their event, but they're also open to looking at applications. So if you don't happen to have a TEDx curator get in touch with you, you can do the reverse process and apply. And here it's the art of the application which will make people take note of you or just have you discarded. So it's how you craft that application and how you create a convincing argument that your idea is worth spreading and that you're the one to spread it. That's kind of what makes all the difference to getting accepted.
That's really interesting as far as like you find the venue, you find what they're talking about, and then you meet them halfway and you say, well, your event is about this, and I have this topic and it fits you, but then also here's all this cool stuff I'm doing to stand out, so that way I'm conforming a little bit, but then also standing out at the same time. Is that on the right track?
Exactly. You really want to stand out, and you really want to make sure that whatever your subject is, that you really take a very original stance on whatever it is you're talking about. So it has to have the energy of people don't really know about this. That creates a winning TEDx talk. So a curator will always be on the lookout for a new angle, even if it's a very established topic, and even if there are maybe already several TEDx talks or even TED Talks about your subject. You have to find an angle that nobody's explored and that is really groundbreaking.
Well, great. So I'm really excited to jump into your story and take some of these ideas that we already talked about these last couple of minutes and sort of reinforce or explain how you were able to land this TEDx Paris talk. So can you tell us like what your journey was like? I mean, like what even got you the idea of doing a TEDx talk in the first place?
So that's a great question. So I kind of, as many people, I'm sure as a fellow business owner who is kind of also very knowledgeable about online marketing, everybody dreams of having their own TEDx talk to some extent if you're in our industry at large. And so of course it was the same for me. I had a big dream to talk about highly sensitive people and to kind of reposition how people think about sensitivity. That was my mission, and I always wanted to do this talk, but like most people at that time, I wasn't sure how I would go about it. And Fortunately for me, I had a series of nice coincidences coming together that led to me applying for TEDx. My TEDx event was called TEDx IHE Paris, and they're the English-speaking event in Paris because there's also a French-speaking one. And I managed to pitch my talk, and after that, they were interested enough for me to be interviewed by the curator. And then I went through the whole application process, which for anybody who's thinking about doing their TEDx talk, this is your moment to shine. Is you really want to get your curator on board. You want to show and demonstrate your expertise. You want to show them your passion. You want to show them why this matters, that this idea gets out there. And you will be taken through normally a series of interviews with different people that are organizing this event. And the final call goes to the curator whether or not you get accepted.
Well, great. And so, I mean, I'm sure that there's probably a lot of things that you did on purpose that you put in your application in order to even get to that interview process, right? Like I'm
Yes.
sure that there are things that you did right that tons of other people who applied missed the mark on and didn't even get a call
Yes.
back. So what do you think that you did that made you stand out and made you a winner on this?
So I think the magic is in how you craft the summary statement of your TEDx talk. So you really need to go in with your TEDx talk already firmly in mind. So it cannot be kind of this is my topic and kind of this is my subject that I would be talking about. You really, in your mind, you want to map out your TEDx talk and then distill that to one paragraph. That's the real magic, because you need to have such a powerful summary that even if you just did that summary and got on stage and speak maybe 1 minute, that they would be like, wow, this is a TEDx talk in and of itself. And I spent an amazing amount of time crafting that one paragraph because I knew it had to be as good as a TEDx talk. And most people, from what I've heard, are more vague and they just generally talk about their topic, and that's not good enough. And something I would recommend, which if I were to do it over again, which I think would be crucial, would be to do a video as well. So when you reach out and send them your application, to use the same kind of paragraph and do a 1 minute video that you upload as an unlisted video to YouTube, and you send that along so that they get a feel for how you speak, they get a feel for your energy, and this will give you an edge over every other person who just sent a regular application.
I like that a lot, and that's one of those pieces of advice that I need to do more of in general, like not just from submitting to a TEDx talk, but anytime I'm trying to get someone's attention or get someone on as an interview or as a joint venture partner. I don't do that often enough, but there have been many times when, especially if I'm trying to reach someone who's maybe out of my league a little bit, as like I'll send them a quick and short message, but then those few times that I just made a quick, 30 to 60 second quick video explaining it. I mean, there's no downside to that, right? It's like you have the written stuff, you have your personable stuff, you record the video. It's just, if you pass it along, it's one more quick way to get attention if the person who's on the other end is a reader or a video watcher, right?
I couldn't agree more, and I just have an example of that from this very morning. I spoke at a summit, online summit here in Germany, and usually I don't have that much time to speak at summits, but the organizer of this summit had recorded a personalized message for me, a video explaining why it would mean the world to her if I spoke at her summit. And I was so impressed by that extra mile that I said yes.
Great. And for all we know, she might have just knocked out 100 of those, right? Just started
Oh,
rolling the camera.
she did. I complimented her. She said, I did this for all speakers, actually, that I wanted. And she said, this is what actually got me so many yeses, even from really very well-known people locally. Even ministers said yes based on this one video message. So I cannot emphasize enough how this can be your golden ticket to go the extra mile.
I like that a lot, and it's not even that much of an extra time commitment since you're making these short videos, and it takes you, a couple of hours or maybe an afternoon or a day at the most. Just knock them all out, send them all out. Super great.
Exactly, and I think in the world we live in now, we're all oversaturated with messages. So if you can find a way to personalize it, that's when people actually truly connect to you and want to give you a chance, because they see, you were not just someone on a mass mailing list, you are somebody special to them. So it's a totally different energy.
Okay, and so you did this. You had this TED talk. You had this idea. You distilled it to one paragraph. You made the 1 minute unlisted video, and you personalized a little bit. And so, was there a reason why you chose that particular TEDx venue in Paris? Was there a reason why you chose that city as opposed to somewhere else?
Yes, because I actually lived in Paris for 10 years, and it's still one of my favorite places in the world. And in Europe, for me, it's very easy to really have gone to any of the major cities, but Paris stood out as a great venue for me to be, and so it just was a good fit for me. And I just thought, okay, let's go for it. Let's try it.
Yeah, I mean, as simple as that. It doesn't have to be have any more complexity than that. And so you sent this in. You went through these rounds of interviews, and then what happened after that?
So once you get confirmed as a speaker, of course, the first thing you want to do is celebrate, right? Don't forget celebrating those mini milestones as well. And then you really want to pretty much kick off right away with crafting your talk. And because crafting the talk is really where it's at, because your talk not only needs to fit into 18 minutes, it really, every single sentence has to have meaning in your talk. There's no room for fluff. So you actually spend most of your time writing and rewriting your talk. And the best thing you can do is get out a first draft as quickly as you can, and then share it with people that know you and that like you, and that will give you honest feedback, so that you can start incorporating the feedback from the get-go before you get too attached to any specific section of your talk. You get other people's feedback, you hear what they understood, what left them puzzled, and you can adapt and refine as you go along.
That makes a lot of sense to me, that getting the feedback early, because if you spend, weeks and months on it, and then someone tells you that they don't like it, or you keep hearing that one part sucks, you're like, oh, I don't want to throw out that one part that I spent months and months on. So that makes a lot of sense to get that feedback early and adjust, so that way you maybe don't take that feedback, that criticism, too personally. And so what was the timeline like on this? Like, you submitted your application, and then, like, how long did it take for them to get back to you, and how long did it take for you to be a confirmed speaker, and from then how long did it take to actually, like, present? Like, what's the length of time on all this?
So in my case, I was a bit of an oddball, because I actually applied after applications were already closed. So I was very lucky. But in general, the application process, you can maybe estimate that it takes a month to 2 months for the interviews and everybody to kind of have time to check you out. So that 1 or 2 months, I think, is what you can estimate. And then it depends when you sent in your application, how much time you have. So me personally, I only had 3 months, which is, in TEDx world, is nothing. So ideally, you want to be aiming for 9 months prep time, which might sound like a long time, but I can tell you the effort that goes into a TED Talk, especially if you want a super successful and viral one, is not to be underestimated. So in general, I would recommend to leave yourself 6 to 9 months prep time for the whole thing. But if you happen to find an opportunity that is, maybe 3-4 months out, like I did, then I would say, still go for it, but just know it'll take a lot of time and effort. And if you happen to be a business owner, you need to factor in that this will take your eye off the ball for a little while, but it's definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah, for like a long-term kind of thing that, I mean, will outlive all of us, right? Like, that'll be on YouTube forever and ever, as opposed to
Yes.
maybe like a website or some book might go out of style. Like, that video is going to be, part of history.
It's going to be part of history, and I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do to position yourself as an expert in your industry, or as an expert for the message you are sharing. There's really nothing that can reach a global audience within a short amount of time and get people really on board and be like, wow, there's an instant know, like, and trust factor after somebody has spent 15 minutes or 18 minutes or however long your TEDx talk is. After they spend that time with you, they either love you or they don't love you. But when they love you, they really love you and they want to be part of the next step. So, and if you think about it, on YouTube, it's almost the best free marketing you can get with a global audience at your fingertips.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so, what was it like attending that event? Like, what was there anything different that you had to do compared to a regular speaking gig? Were you super nervous? I mean, what was that experience like?
So that it was an interesting experience for me personally, but because I happened to get sick shortly before the event, which
Oh
as you
no.
can imagine is rather nerve-wracking when you spend so much time on preparing it. But here's the funny thing. So TEDx will usually supply some form of coaching support on the day or two before you get on stage. So you might get somebody who gives you a bit of speaking support, like how can you project your voice better, how can you improve your body language, all this kind of thing. Usually TEDx events provide some kind of mini training before the big day. And I missed out on all of it because I was in bed. So
Oh
the good
no.
news is, for me, I actually think this was a blessing in disguise because I didn't have anybody that could dent my confidence in my own style right before going on stage. Because I think personally that this is not so optimal to be trained a day before you hit the stage, because then you have somebody else's voice in your head and you're like, oh, how was I supposed to do this again? Or how did I project my voice better again? And you lose your natural touch. And I think for a winning TEDx talk, people don't want a perfect speaker. They want somebody who's deeply passionate, excited, enthusiastic, and loving what they're talking about. And whether or not they're typically speaking awesome speakers doesn't matter so much.
Okay, that's really reassuring that maybe a TEDx talk is more polished than what we would usually do, but that being authentic and being excited and all that is more important than having everything exactly perfect.
100%. What needs to be perfect, I think the only thing that needs to be perfect is actually your script. That needs to be pretty perfect because that's what you write on. And I would recommend to anyone doing a TEDx talk to really take the time to memorize it. And that might sound shocking to think, how am I going to memorize 18 minutes straight? But oddly enough, the more you memorize, the more confident you get. And if you like, in a little bit, I can also share some of the techniques I use to memorize. But memorization is what gave me the confidence to get up there and not worry about so much, because I knew that I had put my heart and soul into my script. And when I got on that stage, I thought to myself, it's just about opening my heart and sharing something I really care about and hoping others will feel the same way. And it turned out that that worked like a charm. And me personally, my business career, now I do motivational speaking, but before that I didn't. So I'm not an experienced speaker, and I just want to reassure anyone that you don't have to be an experienced speaker before you do this. I certainly wasn't, and now, I don't know, 1.4 million views later, I'm considered a professional speaker. But my journey there was just basically, my TEDx talk was my first big speech in front of people. So
That's really great. Yeah, and it sounds like doing that 10x talk opened up a lot of doors for other things. And I mean, you want to land a speaking gig somewhere else, just show them your TEDx talk. That'll put you in the top tier as far as a lot of people who are also trying to speak at different events, right?
100%. If you want to do some motivational speaking or any kind of speaking, really, this is your golden ticket, because you just send people a link to your TEDx talk and say, this is me in action, and you can have proof of concept right away. How you are as a speaker, you're on one of TEDx or TED stages are the most well-known stages you can get on I think in the world. So if you can say, I'm a TEDx speaker, and your TEDx talk went reasonably well in terms of amount of views and feedback, then pretty much most events will be happy to have you as a speaker.
Well, super great. So we only have about 5 or so minutes left, but I'm really excited to jump in and hear about how your talk went specifically and about some of those memory techniques and just like how did you think it went?
Well, on the day, I actually thankfully wasn't all that nervous. I meditated in the morning before my talk. I got myself into good energy. And for me, I'm a very spiritual person. A good energy is where it's at for me. So I spent most of my day just focusing on feeling great and really centering myself. And I didn't get manic. I didn't read my speech 10 times again. I knew my speech. I was confident. And that's where this memorization kicks in, is when you know what your speech is and you feel you could say it backwards almost, then on the day you don't need to fret, you don't need to worry. And I know some other TEDx speakers that I've been in contact with, they were still kind of pacing up and down with their script in hand 2 minutes before hitting the stage, and that doesn't give you the right energy, I think.
Yeah,
So
and I agree with that. And real quick, like what that reminds me of is it's like back in school when a lot of people would maybe wait until the night before or the morning of to study for a test, and then I learned this lesson too late. But then when I was in college, if I get an assignment, I would do it the night that it was assigned, even if it was due weeks later. So that way the pressure would be off. It's like I already did the work for this months and months ago. I did it way, way ahead of time. I already stressed out about it, back then, so that way I'm not stressing out about it right before I'm about to, deliver on this thing.
completely, completely. And I think when you do that, you give yourself the gift of doing a great TEDx talk. Because when people ask me, how did you make your TEDx talk go viral within the space of a little over a year? I already had 1 million views in just 1 year. And people said, what was the exact marketing strategy? And I said, well, here's the deal. The marketing strategy starts way before your talk hits YouTube ever, because you actually need to craft a viral worthy talk. So that's all the power of your script. And then you need to memorize it so that it comes across as so natural that you just get up on stage and you can have a conversation with your audience rather than a lecture. Very different energy. And you can only be this conversational if you know exactly what you want to say. Then you can use your energy instead to connect with your audience rather than trying to remember what you're saying next. And that is, I think, makes a huge difference of how you show up as a speaker and how compelling people might find you on stage.
That's a really good way of putting it. That like you have it so well rehearsed. Like you can have things memorized, kind of sorta, where you're like actively thinking about it. But what you're saying is you had this talk so revised, so memorized that it was almost or subconscious for you. So that way, when you gave the presentation, it just kind of went automatically, and then you could consciously turn your attention to how you were interacting with the audience and their energy and things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's completely true. And I felt when I was on that stage, I felt this amazing energy back from the audience. I felt our connection. I enjoyed their laughter, and I felt on the more emotional moments that they really connected with me. And it was really a two-way street, and that even translates over to YouTube, which is the kind of the magical thing about it.
Well, great. And speaking of YouTube, we've mentioned a few times that you've had well over 1 million views on YouTube for your TED Talk, and you mentioned that a lot of that had to do with having a good foundation and starting with some viral worthy content. But in these last few minutes we have here, I mean, was there anything that you did afterwards to market it, to get these views
Yes.
up? Like, how did you get to 1 million views?
Of course, of course. And this is where, it's really a tandem. You can't really market a talk well that just doesn't have it in it to go viral. So what I think of, and what I did is I am like you, I'm a fellow marketer, I'm a business mentor. So what I did is I knew my main job was to get the snowball rolling, right? And that's where the virality came from. I got the ball rolling properly. And what you want to do is, as soon as your TEDx talk hits YouTube, within 24 hours, you need to really give it all you got in terms of marketing. That means you need to have it ready for your list. You need to, like, if you're a marketer yourself, you have an email list. You want to have your message prepared. You want to ask your list to share it with people they know if they resonate with your message. You want to have something crafted for all your friends and family to say, watch it, share it, YouTube it, shared wherever it's relevant, put it on Facebook, link it on any Twitter or whatever. You want to get as many people that you have direct access to get involved within the first 24 hours, because that's how YouTube picks up that there's a lot of traffic coming, and that there's clearly something there. So it'll start also positioning you in search results much better. So if you do that in the first 24 hours, very important. Next to that, I didn't find out that my TEDx talk was going to go live on the day it did. I actually thought I had 3 more weeks to go.
Oh, wow.
Based on my initial estimation. So I did all of this scrambling. So don't do what I did. Have it prepared so that when you hear it's just gone live, you can very confidently just press the button and have it all set already. So that's one of my learnings. And at 2 a.m, when my TED Talk went live, I, of course, also then set up my Facebook ads, which I thought I would still have a lot of time. So I got together with my team, and we created a quick mini funnel where we directed traffic directly from Facebook ads to my YouTube video. And what happened is this Facebook ad itself that my team created, it went viral. So the ad went viral, which meant the video went viral. And that was a really great support. And I did a lot of marketing in the first 30 days to get the exposure. And after that, that's when really the snowball effect kicked in, where it just kept on growing without active marketing on my behalf. And it's still like that. It's still growing all the time. Every day, 4,000, 5,000 new views are added, and I no longer do anything to market it. So I really concentrated my marketing efforts to the first 30 or so days.
Awesome. I love it. And that's so amazing that you did the TED Talk, you got all your stuff in place, you had all your friends and family, your list, Facebook, Twitter, all the social media to kick that off, and then you ran those Facebook ads over 30 days to have that viral ad. So, because I imagine that there are some TEDx speakers out there who maybe they did their TEDx talk and it went live, and maybe they said, oh, I'm going to kick back for 2 or 3 months and get to promoting it later. And then I'm sure that a lot of people out there have given TEDx talks and have missed out on a lot of the exposure that you've enjoyed just because they didn't strike while the iron was hot. They waited around and then wondered why it didn't work. It didn't work because they did it way too late.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing that you touch upon there, because if you look at all the energy and time investment you put towards your TEDx talk, you really can't let up once it goes live. You can't say, I'll do that after my launch is finished, or I'll do that whenever XYZ is done. You have to do it now, which is why I was myself still up at 2 a.m. with my gorgeous team also to get this out, because I knew it had to happen in the minute it was dropped on YouTube, basically. And some of my fellow TEDx speakers, they have results that they're not that happy with, maybe where they only have 5,000 or 10,000 views even after 1 year, is because they didn't do any active marketing so that it could go viral. And I think when you're looking at having any kind of content go viral, of course, the content itself has to be share-worthy, right? That's the key thing. It has to be share-worthy, because something will not go viral just by driving traffic to it. It will only pick up virality because people are genuinely moved by your message or moved by the idea in some capacity. So that's why I put so much emphasis for virality on the crafting of the TEDx talk. And then the rest is marketing strategy. But again, that only works if you have something good to work with to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So basically, if you have something that's crappy that no one likes, then no amount of advertising will make it go viral. No. But if it's good to begin with, then you might need those ads to get the virality of it kickstarted, to get a little bit of attention to it, and then it'll just grow on its own.
Correct. And that's the beauty then when you have a TEDx talk that's caught fire like that, then you really have a global audience that reaches out to you. And I think for me, one of the most beautiful things of having done this TEDx talk is to get emails every single day from people who have watched my talk and said, this talk changed my life. It changed my perception. It changed how I feel about myself. even people that said, it saved their life because they were at a really bad place and this gave them hope. So you don't know how many people's lives you can really genuinely touch. And I mean, what better than to wake up every morning with a new set of love letters in your inbox, right?
Yeah, that I agree. That's a fantastic way to wake up in the morning, and yeah. So I think that that I really appreciate you like decoding and demystifying this thing called a TEDx talk, and making us realize that, well, there are a few steps involved and we have to work quickly on some of the stuff and get things done early, but it's definitely doable. And so I really like your mindset and your like all this like inspiring and motivational stuff. And I'm sure that if people are listening, they want to know more about you and what you can do to help and work with them in their business. So can you tell us about like your websites, your offers, things like that? So if people enjoyed our conversation today, they want to keep it going, what else do you have for us?
Sure, thanks for the opportunity to share. I appreciate that. So I think for those of you who are really excited about becoming TEDx speakers yourself, you can find out more on sensitivesuccess.com/speaker, where I offer an A to Z kind of TEDx talk on a silver platter experience, where I guide you through the entire process, where you have my feedback on every step of the way, even with my business partner, Dr. Josephine Gross, who is a professional speechwriter and book author. We help you craft your TEDx talk for you to take off some of that pressure that you might feel to write this winning speech. And we take you really through the entire process, including at the end. We help you memorize your talk. We make you do like a test talk for us where we give you our personalized feedback on what worked, what didn't work. And then at the end, we co-create your viral marketing strategy with you as well. So if you're interested in that and you think, you know what, a TEDx talk is what I need, and I want to have somebody hold my hand all the way through this process, take out all the stress and really have expert guidance to land it, do it, and succeed with it, then I think our speaker coaching journey to TEDx is a great offer if you know in your heart already that's what you want to do. And you can sign up for a complimentary call with myself and my business partner to figure out if it's the right opportunity for you. So I welcome you to go there. And in general, my work, I'm a business mentor as well for entrepreneurs. You can find out more about my personal coaching and my group coaching offers, and also, of course, my online courses. You can find out more on entreprincess.com about all that.
Super great stuff. So I hope not only do I hope everyone goes there, but those of you listening, if you have always watched some of those TED Talks or those TEDx Talks and you thought, I could do that, or I could do better than that, or you wish that you had more speaking opportunities, more exposure, you wish you were closer to that celebrity status, you wish you had all those morning love letters of people telling you that your talk changed their life, well, why wait around? Why let the dream pass you by? Go for it right now. If you want to begin your journey to a TEDx talk, then check out sensitivesuccess.com/speaker, especially because you don't want to be trying to blaze the trail yourself, because that sounds like a real frustrating journey of lots of trial and error. Why not go to some people who have already taken that journey, and that way they can just guide you along on the path and show you the do's and don'ts, the things that you're forgetting or missing out on, and the things that you're doing wrong, to have that course correction. So that way, instead of trying to fumble around and figure it out yourself, you can just say, well, someone else has already been on a TEDx stage, I'll just get the coaching from them. So we'll see you over at sensitivesuccess.com/speaker. Make sure to sign up for that complimentary call just to have a chat with Elena and her partner to see what can be done here. And then also we'll see you as well at entreprincess.com. And thanks so much for stopping by and telling us all about this crazy TED Talk world. I'm super excited for you. I'm glad that you did it. And I think that a lot of other people will be doing some great TEDx talks soon, thanks to you.
Well, I definitely hope so, because my dream is to have more people share their ideas with the world, because at the end of the day, what changes the world is great ideas. So my dream is to get even more people out there on that stage and really share what matters to them. So thank you so much for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to share with everyone.
Have you heard of Google? How about Google Calendar, Google Drive, or Gmail? Do you struggle mastering these powerful but sometimes scary technologies? Our new book, The Checklist Mindset, makes it simple. It's the next best thing to hiring a full-time virtual assistant. Claim your copy of our book on Kindle at www.checklistmindset.com.